What a difference a year makes. The New York Islanders have 6 players participating in the World Junior Championships. We'll preview that and discuss an important decision the Islanders have to make once play resumes. Coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and want to wish all those celebrating a very Merry Christmas. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show. The World Junior Championships get started Friday, and the Islanders have 6 players. We'll preview that. Plus, big question the Islanders need to answer that could have a significant impact on how the team does going forward. Who sits when Bo Horvat returns to the lineup? And we'll talk about some of the smaller moves made by Matthew Darche that have had a big impact on the 2025-2026 Islanders. Let's start with World Juniors. And I have to say, in recent years, World Juniors did not excite me. As an Islander fan, as someone who covers the Islanders, as a hockey fan, I always loved it. But the Islanders usually would have maybe 1 or 2 players at World Juniors, sometimes not even that many. And it was difficult to get excited when you sort of look and see that some of the other teams you're competing with have 4, 5, 8 players, in extreme circumstances. Well, that has changed. And this year, the Islanders will have 6 players and almost had a 7th. But they will have 6 players representing their respective countries at the World Juniors. And look, to me, the World Juniors is a great tournament. It gives young players who have either already been drafted or who are eligible for the draft this year a chance to compete against some of the best players in that age group throughout the world on a big stage with a lot of attention and a lot of media spotlight on the players. It's a big stage and it's top competition, and that makes for a very interesting view of how some of these guys are going to do going forward as hockey players. And it's exciting this year to have 6 players out there. Representing Team USA, Cole Eiserman and Emil Heineman. 2 of them both play for Boston University. They were officially named to the team on Wednesday. And for Eiserman, he's returning to the team, but this year going to play a bigger role. If you'll remember last year, that Eiserman was a 4th line forward or even an extra forward who they kind of put out there, especially on the power play. But this year, he figures to get a lot more ice time and play a much bigger role. He has 8 goals this year, despite missing a couple of games with a minor injury, and leads BU in that category. And that is really great. 1st round pick in 2024. Then you have Emil Heineman, also at BU. making his first appearance at the World Juniors, a second-round pick in 2024. 5 goals, 9 points this year, 3 goals in his last 4 games. More of a defensive specialist, sort of a checking kind of a player than the offensive gunner that Eiserman tends to be. But great to see how Bednarik handles his role and how he's going to play for Team USA. Now, the near miss was this year's 7th-round pick, Jakub Kvasnica. He's been playing so well this year, but he was let go late in the process by Team USA. Otherwise, the Islanders would have had a 7th player at World Juniors. Now, Team Canada, you got Kashawn Aitchison, this year's first-round pick, one of the 3 representing Team Canada, and the big defenseman is having a standout year in juniors. I want to see how his physical play translates to World Juniors, and that's going to be exciting. And I want to see how much offense we see in juniors this year, how well he's producing points, goals, too. He has been outstanding offensively. I want to see how he does against an even higher level of competition. Then you have Victor Eklund representing Team Sweden. That's the 3rd. Well, he was the 2nd, but that's another of the team's 3 first-round picks in this year's draft. And again, how is Eklund going to fare? He's going to be up against some bigger players. He is not a tall guy, but just like his brother, he can skate, he can play, and you really want to see how that plays out for the New York Islanders. So great to see Eklund in there, and he's been playing over in Europe, and again, getting a chance to play against the top players in his age group. And then Tomáš Politin, he's been playing for Czechia. He's a 4th-round pick from this year. He's been playing in their pre-tournament games, and it will be great to see how he does. And again, just having this many players representing the New York Islanders in this tournament is exciting. And the other thing is this. The Islanders have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. 2. And depending on how things go at the trade deadline, remember, you still have Anders Lee and you still have J.G. Pageau in the last years of their contracts. We don't know if they're going to be back. We do not know whether Matthew Darche is going to look to trade them, re-sign them. It may depend on how they're playing. It may depend also on where the Islanders stand in the standings by the time we get to the trade deadline. It'll depend also on how contract negotiations may be going for an extension. There's a lot of balls up in the air, a lot of factors that have yet to be finally determined. But the Islanders have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, with the possibility of adding at least 1 more, maybe even 2 more, but let's be conservative and say 1 more. There are a lot of the top prospects in this year's draft, including Gavin McKenna, who was the consensus number 1 entering this year, but is no longer the consensus number 1. He is maybe going to go 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, but again, you've got a lot of these top prospects in the World Juniors, players you want to take a look at and see, hey, depending on where the Islanders are picking, what trades they make, all of these different factors that will enter into it, players who could be targeted by the Islanders in the draft this year. So a lot to watch, a lot to like. It starts Friday, the 26th, Boxing Day, for those of you up in Canada, and runs through early January. And I am looking so much forward to watching these games. The tournament is in Minnesota, so it's a convenient time zone for those of us in North America. And I am really looking forward to seeing these Islanders prospects and these draft prospects going at it. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Let's talk a little bit about what happens when Bo Horvat comes back. The Islanders have some difficult decisions to make because somebody else is going to have to sit. We'll discuss that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you could place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. I love that live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet on everything from next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our Everydayers Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Islanders, and you get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And always look forward to that. And it's great to share my thoughts and your thoughts on Islanders hockey. So head on over to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club to get more information. And the link is in the show notes. The Islanders have some tough decisions to make. Bo Horvat should be returning to the lineup either Saturday or Sunday. And if it's not then, it's going to be really soon after that. Okay? If that's the case, somebody has to sit. And, right now, Maxim Siplikov has been sitting, and Bo Horvat has been sitting because Bo is hurt, but not on IR. Who sits when Bo returns? And it's going to be interesting because there are several candidates, and yet can't be sure who it's going to be. The addition of Mark Gatcomb has really solidified the fourth line. They now have three players in Cizikas, McLean, and Gatcomb who play a similar system, who provide this team with. Gatcomb gives them more physicality. His play has awakened some of the physicality in McLean and Cizikas as well. They forecheck more aggressively. All of a sudden, this fourth line seems to have a purpose and a style that fits all three members. And they've even scored the odd goal now and again, but their play has been better. And since Gatcomb has been recalled, even without Bo Horvat, the results have been better. I don't think that those three are going to be broken up at this point. Obviously, Matthew Barzal is not sitting. Anders Lee is not sitting. Simon Holmstrom is not sitting. Emil Heineman, J.G. Pageau, Jonathan Drouin, not sitting. I don't think they should sit Cal Ritchie at this point. Again, you have that glut of centers, and you could move Ritchie to the wing. You could move Pajot to a wing. You could move Barzal to a wing. I fear that they may try to move Cal Ritchie to the bench. That, to me, makes absolutely zero sense. Again, he's 20 years old. He is developing. I would rather you send him down to Bridgeport than sit him. I mean, sitting him for a game or two, okay. But I cannot imagine seeing him sit full time the way Siplikov has been, for example. That leaves two other forwards, Max Shabanov and Anthony Duclair. You don't want to sit Shabby. I think we're still kind of figuring out what he is capable of. We've seen flashes of his ability. I mean, he's played 24 games. He's got 3 goals and 10 points. He's a -5 plus minus. These are not numbers that grab you and say, wow. But at the same time, his skill set is there. And I think he is yet to reach that potential. And the only way to get him there is to play him. Anthony Duclair has been playing better as of late. He has 4 goals and 12 points in 37 games. He is even in plus minus. And quite honestly, as much as I'm not thrilled with the prospect, I think Anthony Duclair may make the most sense as far as somebody to sit. Now, he gives you speed, which is something this team likes to play. That's the style, up-tempo, quick-moving, fast skating hockey under Patrick Roy. That has certainly changed over the last year and a half. And Duclair fits that system and does provide speed. But, earlier in the year, he was playing on the 4th line. Wasn't a good fit for him. That's not his style. I think on the 3rd line, he's been better and been able to contribute more. But because this team has more depth than they have had in recent years by a long shot, I mean, there's a lot more depth up front for the Islanders. And keep in mind, this is without Kyle Palmieri, who is on IR and out for the season. I think Duclair would be the number 1 candidate to sit, followed by Ritchie and Shabanov. Again, if it's Ritchie, more than a game or two, I would send him back to Bridgeport to play every day, but I don't want to do that. I want to give Ritchie a chance to get comfortable in the NHL, develop into the player he's going to develop. So it would be Duclair, McLean as a possibility, but again, I don't think the Islanders want to break up that 4th line. Shabanov, but I don't think you want to take him out of the lineup. I mean, I think Duclair makes the most sense at this point, and it'll be interesting to see what Patrick Roy does. And to take it back a step, again, I am expecting, and there is a roster freeze now, and it's not going to happen in the next few days, but I do hope that the Islanders make a trade dealing away one or more of these surplus forwards for players who would help fill some of their needs, whether it's a physical forward or a stay-at-home physical defenseman or a goal scorer, or if you're just still adding picks and prospects, depending on what you can get for a Maxim Siplikov or an Anthony Duclair if you were to waive his no-trade clause. You want to see. But I think creating space when you've got a few too many extra players right now, including some guys who don't fit the system, and then keep in mind also, but in the back of your mind, because I don't think any deals will be made until we get closer to the trade deadline. But as I said earlier, Anders Lee, JG Pajot, if you can't negotiate an extension with them and you feel you don't want to, one of them or both of them could get traded before the deadline. If you get the right offer tomorrow or right after the freeze ends, do you go forward and do that? Maybe. That's something that Matthew Darche has to figure out. So short term, this decision belongs to Patrick Roy. Who do I sit? Who do I play? If he has to send somebody down to Bridgeport, yes, he'll have to incorporate Matthew Darche in that decision-making process. But long term, Darche is going to have to figure out who stays, who goes, who fits the plans and the system long term. All of this are questions this team has to answer. But right now, if it was up to me, I think Anthony Duclair sits when Bo Horvat comes back. But we're certainly wondering what Patrick Roy is going to do and what choice he's going to make. All right, we've got more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about some of the smaller moves that Matthew Darche made over the offseason that have paid big dividends for the New York Islanders, plus a really tough one for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a New Jersey native who broke into the NHL with the Devils, played 3 games for the Islanders during the 96-97 season, and went on to have a pretty lengthy NHL career, but was only briefly an Islander. Let's see if you can guess who this center is. All that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Matthew Darche made a lot of big moves over the offseason. The 2 of the ones that seemed small at the time, however, have really had a major impact on this team. David Rittich, who the Islanders signed in the offseason to be, at the time, the 3rd goalie for this team, because we still did not know the status of Semyon Varlamov, who, by the way, remains nowhere near ready to return. And with each passing day, you sort of get the feeling he may be done as an NHL player. I hope not. I would love to see him come back, but it's been more than a year now, and it doesn't look like his return is imminent. But David Rittich, you look at the numbers right now. He's 8-3-2 on the season. 5 games over 500 in 13 starts. Keep in mind, Ilya Sorokin is 2 games over 500 in 24 starts. The goals against average for Rittich, 2.42. The save percentage for Rittich, .913. Ilya Sorokin's save percentage, .910. Ilya Sorokin's goals against average, 2.55. And I'm not even trying to imply that David Rittich is better than Ilya Sorokin, because he's not. But what David Rittich is a reliable, so far this year for the Islanders, consistent goalie. And you need a backup goalie you could trust. Everydayers will remember. We talked about this during the offseason and even in training camp, with 15 back-to-backs this year, including one coming up this weekend. You really need a reliable backup goalie. Well, David Rittich so far has really fit the bill. And, you know, it was an afterthought over the summer, right? We were all thrilled with the draft pick and the trade for Noah Dobson and winning the lottery and the free agent additions in Drouin and in all of that. The biggest impact, or among the biggest impacts, David Rittich, who you signed to be the 3rd goalie in your system. Small move at the time, or at least people thought it was. Big impact for the Islanders. And the other big impact move that seems small at the time is Emil Heineman. He was the throw-in, and I'll put that in air quotes, throw-in in the Noah Dobson trade. And everyone talked about, yeah, we got 2 first-round picks, and it turns into Eklund and Aitchison, and that's exciting, and can't wait for that. Great to see. But what an impact we have seen from Emil Heineman. He is second on the Islanders in goals scored, only behind Bo Horvat. He has 12 goals, 2 of them coming on the power play. He is a +3. He has 128 hits, which leads the Islanders in that category, 40 more than the next player, which is Casey Cizikas. On a team that lacks physicality and lacks goal scoring, Heineman delivers both. He has 77 shots on goal in 37 games. Among Islanders forwards, that places him 4th. Only Horvat, Lee, and Barzal are ahead of him. And, as they say, you don't trade a player like Emil Heineman, right? This kid has already coming in. Now, granted, last year was his rookie year. He was in a car accident that kind of limited his productivity after the accident because he wasn't 100%. But his career high in goals was 10 last year in the NHL. He's got 12 already, and we're not even halfway through the schedule. This kid is on pace for 25 goals, give or take. It seemed like a throw-in at the time, and yet it may have been, in the short run, one of the more important moves that Matthew Darche made. So clearly, Darche targeted Heineman. He wanted to acquire Heineman, and it was a very good move. So, all off season long, we're talking free agents, we're talking possible trades, we're talking all these big targets and name players, and yet the biggest impact, David Rittich and Emil Heineman, 2 of the players who did not make significant headlines. Credit to Matthew Darche for those 2 moves, which have really impacted the New York Islanders so far this season. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. This one is tough, but today, Christmas Day, is the 57th birthday of former Islanders center Jim Dowd. Dowd was an 8th-round pick of the Devils back in 1987, 6'1", 190 pounds, from Brick, New Jersey. Spent 4 years at Lake Superior State University and made his NHL debut with the Devils, 1 game in 1991-92. Won a cup with New Jersey in 94-95, played for Vancouver, and then joined the Islanders for the 96-97 season. Spent most of the year in the minors, but came up for 3 games with the Islanders that year. Then moved on to play for Calgary, Edmonton, Minnesota, Montreal, Chicago, Colorado, the Devils again, and the Flyers. Played in 728 career NHL games, 71 goals, 239 points, 390 penalty minutes. Add in 9 goals and 26 points in 99 career playoff games. None of those with the Islanders. Dowd played in 3 games with the Islanders, did not record a point. One of his better games with the Isles, though, October 5th, 1996. The Islanders in their fisherman jerseys, traveling west for their 2nd game of the season in San Jose against the Sharks. Tommy Salo, the goalie for the Islanders, Chris Terreri in between the pipes for the Sharks. And the Islanders led 1-0 on a shorty by Dan Plant, led 2-1 on a goal by Derek King in the 2nd period. But with 16 seconds left in regulation, Bernie Nichols ties it for San Jose. The game ends in a 2-2 tie for Jim Dowd. Well, he didn't score. He didn't record a shot, but he was out there on the ice, and this was one of the 3 games he played as an Islander. Jim Dowd, briefly an Islander, but a longtime NHLer, is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. And if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We will preview both of this weekend's games, and they are good ones. We have Saturday against the New York Rangers, Sunday against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So make sure you join us for that. Also, again, check out the Everydayer Club. You can go to lockedonislanders.supercast.com or check out the link in our show notes at lockedonpodcast.com/Everydayer Club. Again, you can get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more. It's all built for our most loyal fans, so check that out today. Have a great day, everybody. For those celebrating again, a very Merry Christmas. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, have a great day, and of course, let's go Islanders.